we have the limit as x approaches 0 of the square root of x plus 5 minus square root of x over x. So we do the direct substitution, plugging 0 directly in, and we end up having 0 plus 5, which is just going to be the square root of 5 minus, and then the square root of 0 is 0 over 0. So we end up with the square root of 5 over 0. Now we say that here that this limit does not exist, and we'll sometimes shortcut that with D and E. We get a 0 in the denominator and a number in the numerator other than 0, and this means that the limit doesn't exist. Okay, so let's look at another one. Here's something that's similar. The limit as x approaches 0 of the square root of 3 plus x minus the square root of 3, and it's all over x. Now you notice in the last problem there was an x under the radical here. Well, we have a 3, and because this is a 3 plus x, we're going to end up getting something different, and this is kind of a typical problem that you might see either in your homework or on a test. And if I go ahead and plug in the 0 into this, we end up with the square root of 3 minus the square root of 3, and that's going to end up giving us a 0 in the numerator, and of course plugging 0 into the x in the bottom gives us a 0 here. So we can't factor this, but there is another trick that we're going to use just to find out what this limit is, and we're going to multiply the top by the conjugate of what is in the numerator. So what we do here is what looks like we're writing down the same thing. Instead of a minus sign, we're going to put a plus here, and the square root of 3. And of course what we do in the top, we must duplicate that in the bottom. Now what we want to do here is we want to go ahead and multiply the top out. And so we do what's called FOIL it out. Square root of 3 plus x times the square root of 3 plus x, which is just 3 plus x. Square root of 3 plus x times square root of 3, and then the negative square root of 3 times the square root of 3 plus x. So those two terms are going to cancel out because one of them is a positive and one's a negative, so they just cancel out. And then your last terms, negative square root of 3 times positive square root of 3, is just going to give us a negative 3. And I'm just rewriting the bottom. So as you can see here, up here in the numerator, the 3's will cancel out. We have an x left in the top, and then there's an x in the bottom. So we can cancel these x's out. And so I rewrite the limit again. And now do the direct substitution. So I plug the 0 in. So 3 plus 0 is 3, and so we end up with the square root of 3 plus the square root of 3, and that can simplify down to 2 square roots of 3. Now in some cases they want you to get the radical out of the bottom, and so we multiply, use a different color here, we multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3, so we end up with square root of 3 over 6, because the square root of 3 times square root of 3 is 3 and 2 times 3 is 6. So we end up with that as our final answer.